Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome in to the Maize and Blue Reviews. Good afternoon, Michigan football. As Blake Corum said a couple days ago, we're ready to rock and roll and get things underway with the former Wolverine Jim Scarcelli, who joins us on this Wednesday, as he has oftentimes throughout the summer. Scar, how you doing?
Oh, just it's a hot day out there, Denny. Reminiscing. This is double session football weather. It's one of those days where you put your equipment on and you get outside on that Michigan turf, and you're just drenched before you've done anything. You're just soaked. And but you got to have it to prepare for football. A lot of stuff going on with Michigan, Coach Harbaugh. Let's dive in.
Yeah, I just hope that weather doesn't knock my power out. Northwestern might, or in the midst of a fire sale. Scar's got something about the balance of power in college football, but we will start with the looming Jim Harbaugh suspension. The sources indicate, Scar, that it could be 4 games to start the season because he misled the NCAA. That's how it's being characterized. How do you see this? Let's start with your general thoughts on this.
Well, the good news is the end is in sight. We get the 4 games done and it's over and done, and they can't use it to a negative recruit against us, so we can bury it. That's the good news. Hopefully they can negotiate. I know Josh had some things indicating that it's nothing confirmed about 4 games. Hopefully they can get it down more. But, I look at this situation as a way, and I know Coach Harbaugh will do the same thing. He'll look at a way to spin it from a positive. Okay, Danny, here I'm looking at myself, putting myself in that position. If I was a head coach at Michigan, one of many things you want to do with your assistant coaches, you want to develop them, prepare them to become head coaches. So if it is 4 games, a couple of things to think about. I like the idea of not making it one guy for all 4 games. I would want to promote. I honestly believe they got 10 guys on that staff that could potentially be head football coaches, just given the opportunity. So it would be something positive on their resume. Other coaches thinking about coming to Michigan, and they know that Jim Harbaugh is fighting to get you in a head coaching job, and you do things like that. Those things help you bring guys in. That's one thing. So I would consider a different guy for all 4 games. It might sound crazy. That's me to promote coaches. The second thing that Jim is going to have to consider is, I've been in a lot of these different positions now, obviously, but as a head coach, you got a lot of stuff, Danny, that sometimes doesn't have nothing to do with football on game day. Hopefully, from what I'm hearing, he can coach all week, Sunday through Friday, and he won't be able to be there for the game. Hopefully that's the deal. That would be great. And then, you have to have a guy that is just handling, meet with the referees and some of that, those logistical things that don't have nothing to do with game plan and that kind of stuff. And you can leave your coordinators alone. One of the upsides is you leave. Now, I don't know if Sharon Moore is going to be suspended too, but if you leave Minter, Sharon Moore, and Jay Harbaugh alone throughout the week and on game day, they can continue to just focus on, their area that they coordinate. So that's an upside of a Clinksdale, a Michael Hart, or a Michael Elston. Go ahead. Your thoughts. I threw a bunch of stuff. I got more on it, but that's just some of the things I'm thinking about.
Yeah, I think that Sharon Moore and Grant Newsome, at least they've talked right now, that they will be suspended a game as well. The good news is that Michigan's got an easy schedule here. None of these games, you and I could be over there. It would probably be pretty good down there on the sideline. So they can do whatever they want with the coaches. I wondered if it will have, I don't know about a hangover. It's certainly, the distraction part starting tomorrow for Harbaugh, and then every time it's talked about, and it's going to be a distraction for the fans, will be a distraction for the players. But what about when he gets back up on the horse? I mean, he's going to miss 4 games. Could you see, that there could be any kind of effect with him, not being with the team and then, being the head coach then.
I just think this stuff is, if it's just game day and I'm putting myself as a player there again, it's like, okay, I got my coach talking to us before practice and I'm getting coached by my position coach all week long. We're game planning. I'm listening to my coordinators. Friday night, coach is talking to the team, and then we just don't see him Saturday. Okay, great. We don't get the little pregame speech from coach. Maybe it's somebody else. But when I get on that field, man, it's me and that dude across from me. Where Coach Harbaugh is irrelevant. I got 110,000, maybe national television. That stuff is out of my mind. It's vastly, vastly overrated, in my opinion. Assuming he can coach all week, and how I go out about it as a player on that field on game day. So
you said something about this coming to a conclusion now, and then it'll be over after the 4 games. I can see where you're going with that. Do you think that this was, Harbaugh and then whoever was advising him, that he took a plea right here so he could get this over with, and then there won't be any acknowledgement of it. He's not going to maybe read a statement or something, and then he's not going to answer any more questions. But do you think this was kind of a plea where afterwards, you're not going to be able to talk about it and everything else? Let's just move on, kind of thing.
Well, the media can talk about it all they want. The enemy might talk about it in recruiting all they want, but he's got a lawyer, and they're, Mars is a sharp guy, and they're negotiating. He's talking to the NCAA, and the media can beat it up all they want, and people can negative recruit with it all they want. But, I think Jim wants to get it over with. And, again, if I'm the coach, I'm trying to spin this as a positive with my staff, with my players. I'm talking about adversity. I'm talking about next man up. That goes for the head coach too. I always, you're always talking about those things with your team. Next man up, got to be ready to go. Well, that goes for the head coach too. I always had a plan if something happened to me. You got to have a plan for that. Again,
I still wonder, Scar, if with Harbaugh here, I think it would be good for Michigan and good for him if they, whatever this ends up being, if it's 4 games as it sits right now, so they can just get past this and get on with the season. My thought, though, is I've seen Jim Harbaugh and how he operates. This is what got him into, if you want to call it, hot water in the first place. They had their 4 level 2 issues with the NCAA, and they could have just dealt with that, but it turned into a level 1 because he basically was telling the NCAA, I don't know how look, this is not a big deal. Why don't you deal with what the really big deal is? And this is where all Michigan fans are upset. I've noticed over the last 24 hours. They're like, what about Tennessee? What about this school? What about that school? Well, what about Michigan here? And what about Harbaugh? I mean, I could see him getting into a situation where he's like, you know what? This is what we did, and we did it because everybody else is a big fat cheater. So this could still be a lot of drama involved. I'm hoping that it's a little just kind of gets in there ready to move on with it, and it comes to a resolution by tomorrow when he's up there making his State of the Union address about Michigan at the Big Ten coaches meetings.
Yeah, Jim, he's got his principles. He's maybe a little stubborn about his belief. I'm going to be honest now. I have a problem with the way it's framed by a lot of people in the media. Jim Harbaugh refuses to admit he lied. What about innocent until proven guilty? How about the headline being Jim Harbaugh and the NCAA disagree about events? Because obviously Jim disagrees with the way the NCAA, their interpretation of things. But, a lot of people in the media, and obviously I'm in the media now, and I just think it should be more. But hey, listen, a lot of Michigan people have an absolute right to voice those concerns. That, yeah, what about all this NIL stuff that's out of control that are people? It isn't even NIL. It's just somebody paying these kids. And but hopefully it'll be over soon. And and Denny, I was thinking about this. Listen, Jim doesn't coach the defense and he doesn't coach the offense. he hasn't called plays. So the collaboration that Michigan has used since Jim got the job is actually going to, his presence not being there isn't going to be hurt, because Michael Hart and the other guys that are still involved with the play column will be there, and it'll just be a smaller collaboration. So that's the upside of the way our offense works, at least.
Yeah, I don't, it's not that I don't like it, or when, you hear people go, Harbaugh's a big, he's a big fat liar and a cheater now, like that's like the things like, so alleged false statements. That's what the NCAA said, that he was dishonest. And Harbaugh came back and said, hey, I wasn't purposely dishonest. And, so there it is. However you want to, hey, I lied. I didn't mean to, he didn't think it was that big of a deal. So he wasn't cooperating because he didn't want to put himself in the hot water. However you want to look at that. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of different ways you can go with, you could say, you could look in there. And one thing about Michigan is they positioned themselves. This is even before Harbaugh. I think a lot of it has to do going back to the Ed Martin scandal. People really hated, even though it wasn't a recruiting inducement with Martin giving the, hundreds of thousands of dollars to, specifically Chris Webber. But there was a lot of people like, this is not Michigan. They would rather, just do away with everything. You just can't. So I think a lot of it, Michigan's image in the 21st century, they want it to be that they're above the fray. And they're certainly the ultimate sin at Michigan is paying players. And, the NCAA, we see they can't really do anything. They're not doing anything. I know that's frustrating for Michigan. I think before Jim Harbaugh, most of the fans used this as the number one reason that they weren't winning. We call it an excuse or a reason. Everybody else is cheating. Michigan will not stoop to that level. Well, they've stooped somewhat to something here. And I think that part, it's not about the 4 games. It's about the image and, the hit to the credibility of that image. I don't know. People can do whatever they want. And I know as a former player, and I know alums, they love that, that Michigan has, there's ethics with Michigan. They're above the fray, and this, to me, this hurts, that image. So from that part, but look, the way that you feel better about it is you look up at those banners and that Michigan has won the Big Ten and been to the college football playoff the last 2 years. So you got to put all of that and mix it up. And however you come out, that's going to be to the individual person.
Yeah, Danny, no one's perfect as a leader. And it's obviously that there's a problem here that something happened in Michigan. You're absolutely right about Michigan wanting to be crystal clear, crystal clean in our image and how we go about winning. And Jim obviously he has he just wants to fight for his honor too, not admitting to it. So he feels obligated to fight for his for what he stands for.
Well, let's get right down to it, Scar. I know that there were whatever you want to call them, indiscretions or level 2s, what they're calling them, not the most serious things, but when you're meeting with recruits outside an allowable time period, I know that Michigan knew that it was outside of an allowable time period. They shouldn't have been doing that. That they were texting players outside of a time frame of an allowable time period when they're supposed to be texting players. That is something that you're not supposed to do. That's very black and white when it comes down to that. Analysts, coaching on the field, there is a protocol. And even though it's changed now, but there was a protocol and Michigan didn't adhere to it. It was the same thing with coaches. They weren't supposed to be watching players and coaching them on a Zoom when they were working out, and they did. So, Harbaugh's like, hey, these are small potatoes. Go roast the big potatoes. And everybody's like, most of the fans don't care that the players are getting paid. So this is what it comes down to me. It's like, it's not like Michigan is like, you're saying he's defending his honor. I mean, these things are pretty black and white when it comes down to it. If you don't want to call him a fat liar and he's just saying, well, I didn't remember and I wasn't dishonest on purpose. These kind of things where you're comparing a governing body. And now this is what fans do. What about Urban Meyer and how he handled this? And what about, ultimately what was going on with Tennessee? you can pay players. If you're not the head coach, Urban Meyer, how long did he stay as head coach of Ohio State? That's what led to his dismissal. So going about, looking at domestic violences and comparing, apples to apples, it's whatever. If it makes you sleep better at night to do this as a Michigan fan, do it. Do it however you want. But, I don't, going around all of this and blaming other people and blaming the NCAA and all of that. And, talking about burgers, I don't know, that's what a lot of people like doing here. Not me.
Yeah, Denny, it's Jim knows what the enemy does. He knows what the other people are doing in terms of what are the little things that the NCAA doesn't slap anybody for. I don't know what it is, okay? Head college coaches know that gray line. They know just how far they can go with a hamburger or this, that, or whatever, and the NCAA doesn't do anything. I don't know what it is, but maybe Jim he pushed it a little too far, perhaps. That line that, you're allowed to cross. I know as a former high school coach, there were periods we were supposed to practice and, times and limits and all this and that. And I knew of guys that stretched it. Of course, I never wanted to do those things, but I know of guys that did. And then some. So I'm not trying to justify what he did. He understands what the enemy does. He knows the darn NCAA book inside out.
Correct.
And maybe he just he went a little too far. And then you start winning, or who knows where the rat came from? Who snitched? People wanted to get rid of. I don't know how that all came about.
Yeah, well, it looks like it was a former staffer. Look, I'm yelling, making it sound like I don't want people to tune in and say, well, what are you grilling Jim Harbaugh? It's not really me grilling him. Like I said, I think that they're going to be okay. I think that they'll be able to get past these 4 games. It's certainly, we're talking about how it'll be a distraction, how they'll work it on.
It ain't going to be no distraction. The media is going to, let me tell you, all Jim gives a damn about are those 15, 20 coaches and those 140 some kids. All this other clutter, it ain't affecting those kids. Believe me, if I was a player and I was part of that program right now, I know that coach is there all week. It ain't affecting me, man. I'm on the field. I'm playing. I'm dealing with my position coach, my coordinator, and we're just going to come out 4-0, and it's all going to be behind us. And we got recruiting going, and everything will be rolling. Trust me, you heard it here.
Well, I hear you say that. I also remember, Scar, anytime that something happened in the offseason or this offseason, last offseason, you say, that's putting that team in chaos. That's having chaos. That's having questions. That's outside the building. Every one of those kids is going to be, and we'll find out, over the next couple of days when
this is minor, Danny. This is minor chaos. This is minor nickel dime stuff. Jim is going to spin it. He's got a great staff. And he's going to try to spin it that we, like I said, man, next man up. Believe me, those kids are going to learn from it, and we'll be going to be 4-0, and it'll be gone and over and done.
I would like to say that I am okay. Like, you're talking about the most popular game in the United States. That is a very violent sport that's got billions of dollars at stake, which is going to make, and it has been nothing. And I love the game and the sport myself, but there's always intense drama behind the scenes and everything else, and cheating and rampant is going on. So Michigan going up to the line and crossing it a little bit, I think you have to do that to be competitive. I think the thing where it gets into it is like Michigan is like, I think that they think that, hey, they've had this image of they'll go right up to the line or they'll cross it a little bit, except when it comes to the ultimate sin and paying players, and people don't care about that. I mean, that's my biggest takeaway on that is like Michigan is like, they'll be fine. Yeah, they did this. They'll move on. But it's that that's that last piece about their refusal because of, their game plan. They don't want to go into that area, and and maybe they'll have to one day, which I'm okay with. Maybe they already have, which I'm okay. But I just think it goes back to the fans who always want to say, we're above the fray and we're above like all these rogue programs. Like, Michigan, the only difference between Michigan and the other college football teams up to this point has been their refusal to go for pay to play. Other than that, they're pretty much like everybody else. That's the way I see it.
Okay, well, Jim knows it'll be over and done. It'll be 4 games at best. And maybe our image takes a little shot, but I just want to get it over and done with.
I'm with you on that. Let's answer some of the questions, Scar. Vince is talking about 38 days, calling this nonsense. It will only make our team stronger. And then he is talking about NBC releasing their schedule, MSU and Purdue home game, the Purdue home game, night games. And he adds that hopefully Nebraska is big noon. Yes, the Purdue game and the Michigan State game, unless they flex it, are going to be 7:30 night games on NBC.
I think we have one of the preseason, one of the non-conference are night also, right? Isn't that one of them?
Yes, it is.
I think that's smart.
Bowling Green is a night.
I think that's a good move by Jim. I don't know what say he has in that, but it gets your players acclimated to that sitting around all day, waiting for a game. I hated it as a player, but you got to get used to it. You got to deal with it. So, it is what it is in college football. The Michigan State game, it's going to be crazy and wild no matter what time you play it. So, that's good stuff.
Brian says put a cardboard cutout of Harbaugh on the side.
That's all. Hey, believe me, Denny, listen, I just think about it. I put myself on that field as a player, man. It's me and my position coach. That's the deal. And that's how it is with every darn kid there. And, coach would give his little pregame speech, but after that, I didn't interact with them. I played defense. Now, some of the guys maybe on offense might have, but it's not gonna affect our that. I get it, but Denny, that's a sign. I talk about chaos all the time, okay? And we want that in Columbus. We want that in Lansing. But the good leader that Jim is, he will spin this thing where there is no chaos. Those assistants and coordinators and the players will step up and not miss a beat.
All right, so let's see. Rico is saying lying is a part of life. AP saying Harbaugh is saying he didn't lie. If he's saying he didn't lie to anyone about anything, then our integrity is intact. He said that the alleged false statements that he gave, that he was not being dishonest or lying. He said that he wasn't purposely dishonest.
Yeah, just a misinterpretation of language, Danny. That happens all the time, man. Misinterpretation.
Yeah, I mean, right. I mean, like all of that kind of stuff. Like, I know, who was born yesterday and anything else. Look, this is part of the game that you've got to play and go along with it. This is it. I don't think it's going to affect Michigan's season. And, they take some hits with their image. And that's, I don't say that's it, but, that's where, the part that I'm sitting here right now.
Them recruits ain't going to care. It'll be over and done.
No, the recruits don't care. It's like the recruits care that some teams want to give them money up front or want to give it to them immediately. No, they don't, that part either. So why are they going to care if somebody texts them out of bounds or, makes contact outside of any time frame? Kids aren't going to care about that. And you can coach on during Zoom now, and you can also be an analyst on the field. So those things are kind of water under the bridge as well. So, yeah, I don't know. Certainly the rivals, that's going to be the fallout on this. If you don't like Michigan or something, you want to take it to them a little bit and say, they're like cheaters like all the rest. Well, that's going to be kind of the fallout when it comes down to it.
Yeah, and a recruit will have to make his mind up, if it matters at all. And that's, That's where it stands. Like I said, the enemy might try to use it in negative recruiting against us, but it is what it is.
How about a plan to give Sharon Moore a test game for 3 games and Mike Hart as a head coach, a test run for eternal candidates if Jim goes to the NFL, like the Cade and JJ tryout?
Like I said, there's a lot of ways to go. Me personally, I would pick 4 different guys just to promote my guys. I would. And because it really will sell that I care about my assistant coaches. I want them to get head coaching jobs. So all of them will have a win under their column. You know what I mean? But like I said, there's a downside of making your coordinators the head coaches on game days for whatever, things that will distract from their ability to coordinate.
Yeah, I get people are frustrated about, like, and here's JP saying it's the inconsistencies and, like, the NCAA, governing bodies looking for consistencies. I mean, you could complain about it. This is their own doing. These are self-inflicted wounds. But, going out and, things aren't fair. And the NCAA, sometimes does seem like it's arbitrary. And, coaches that are gone, if they can levy fines, they do that. This is a situation with them is that they have, they have the details, and then they have a coach that's sitting. That often doesn't happen. So they are able to at least, hit them a little bit, even though, it's basically a slap on the wrist here. So, I mean, I get being frustrated. Like, how many times you hear people that go through the legal system? They're like, well, what about this person? That person had a lot of money and they had great legal representation. I mean, it happens with governing bodies. It can be inconsistent. So you can complain about that. But, it's going to be happening all the time.
Snitches get stitches, according to Richard. Yeah. Anyway, a lot of thoughts on this, Denny.
Let's take a couple more. Wolverine fan says, really, in perspective of bigger issues throughout college athletics, minor violations should have just been written warnings, not punishable violations. Well, they would have been if they potentially would have got some
We don't know that for sure, Denny. We don't know for sure how they would have treated him if he would have said, "Yep, you're right. We bought the hamburger," or an alum bought the. We don't know that for sure. You're assuming. A lot of people in the media are assuming that if Jim would have said, "Yep, the NCAA is right, and I trust you to slap us on the wrist and say, you're wrong. Okay, no problem then. No punishment." See, obviously, Jim thinks differently, that they would have slapped something on him. That's been the narrative that, if Jim would have just admitted it, this thing would have been nothing. But we don't know that for sure.
Well, you don't know it for sure, but what you do analyze is the NCAA in those level 2, all of the texting and the impermissible contact. Those are not looked at as serious violations. What the NCAA does look at seriously, the thing that this NCAA looked at the most serious is that they didn't get cooperation. So I don't know, it doesn't seem like to be a big leap to say, okay, yes, we were turned in and we said, yes, this is exactly what happened. We did meet with the recruit. We did have coaches on the Zoom. We did do that. They pretty much admitted all of that. And yet when they asked Harbaugh about it, he was like, to hell, I don't know, whatever he said. He said that he purposely wasn't dishonest. I mean, that's it. So that's what raised it to a level 1. So I can say, I don't know, I can't say with 100% assurity, and you're talking about the media, I could say the way that Harbaugh dealt with the level 2 violations are what has him suspended for the season. Okay. Or the 4 games.
I can't. Okay. I can't say what the NCAA would have done. Jim rolled the dice. He made a decision. You know what I mean? And we don't know. You're assuming the NCAA would have, whatever, that the punishment would have been less. I don't know. And Jim thought otherwise, obviously.
Detroit Lions fan says part of the biggest issue with all of this is that the NCAA has an arbitrary scale to punishment to all infractions, and the general belief is that they're incompetent whether or not they deserve it. Yeah, well, with a lot of things when it comes down to paying the players, even when they have the money and all of that, when they go and ask the player, "Hey, did you get the money?" The player's like, "No." They're not compelled really to say anything. And even though this is very small potatoes, they have it. They have Michigan admitting about the coaches. They have Michigan admitting about the outside contact and the text. So, I mean, they had him dead to rights. So when they asked him some further questions, giving him the middle finger, didn't seem like the best. I would have asked what Harbaugh. It'd be nice to hear. What I think is that Jim is so beside himself with everything that's going on with other teams breaking the ultimate sin of paying players. With Michigan has decided not to do that. They're very frustrated when they're getting hit with much smaller things. So I mean,
that's probably a lot that goes into it, and and he wants to leave Michigan with again, in his mind, he believes he's going to, when he ever does leave Michigan, he'll leave with his integrity intact. That's probably why he chose this way.
Detroit says hopefully this makes Michigan more focused. What about the chance that they could rally around this, and this could be a you've mentioned that Harbaugh will use this to his advantage if he can. If you're looking for an us against the world card, coaches seem to like that one. Scar, you guys like that card?
Yeah, again, I just think it's come game day, those 140 guys are going to be focused on the guy across from them, playing their technique, blocking who they got to block, playing hard, and they're going to be focused on what they have to do, and the issues with their coach will be, it's not going to be in their mind.
All right. Well, let's see if there's somebody new that wanted to get in. Brian thinks the whole thing is stupid. OT thinks it's a slap on the wrist. Yeah, I think ultimately, the plan is, Michigan, can they win those first 4 games and not have this factor into the remaining games? And I think that's true. So, I mean, like, the one thing about the NCAA, you say, I agree, I'm not, this is no defending him or anything else, is like the NCAA does not want to take one of their brand teams that's in great position to play for it all and do something punitive to them. They don't want to bite the hand that feeds them. They don't want to hurt Michigan. This is something that they've had to do. It's small potatoes, 4 games. It is a slap on the wrist. Michigan's image, which, they like to have, like they're above, it takes a little bit of a hit, but, we'll be able to deal with that and then move on.
There you go, Denny. And the amount of the hit is depending on how you perceive it.
I guess that's right.
Yeah, we don't know what Sharon Moore or Grant's punishment, if he's going to get a punishment or not, but it'll be handled, and we're going to move on.
All right, Scar, let's move on. What else do we got? Northwestern. Michigan looks like they're hosting a linebacker. They might be interested in bringing in a linebacker for some depth for this year. So Northwestern, the players are over there. They see what's going on. Everybody's running, seeing if they can find another team. What about the fire sale?
Yeah, I saw that. Nigel Glover, good-looking young kid. He's committed. He's the 23 class, so he's obligated. He can transfer, and we're going to take a look at him, man. You remember when Illinois had those problems years ago? You remember? Penn State. When Penn State had those problems years ago, I mean, their guys were hanging around the parking lot. Coaches, you remember that? And so I don't know how bad it's going to get, but I guarantee you, Jim is, our guys, he doesn't miss nothing. So we're on it. If there's anything to pick at, and you have to be, you got to be on it because other guys can be looking at it. So that's something going on at Northwestern. There's a lot of headaches and chaos there. Who knows what's going to happen there? I saw Illinois, and this is Brett Bielema, good coach. He got Jim Leonard on his staff. Danny, did you see that?
No, I didn't. That's
Jim Leonhard, the former defensive coordinator and potential head coach of Wisconsin. I think he may have been a player when Bielema was D coordinator at Wisconsin. So they probably go way back. So that's a good thing for Illinois, man, because Jim Leonhard's a hell of a coach. He's going to be an analyst. So
that's a great hire.
Yeah, that's a great hire. That's something of note. That's what good coaches do, man. They find guys like that.
Yeah, is this the balance of power you're talking about?
No, the balance of power. The balance of power term that I want to see is really in the SEC. I want to see. Like Tennessee just got a 5-star receiver a couple weeks, a week or so back. That's what I mean. I want to see Tennessee continuing to get guys from Georgia. You talk about wanting to win a national championship. Well, the best thing for Michigan is when Auburn takes a kid from Alabama or Tennessee gets a kid from Georgia. If someone takes a kid from Clemson, we want to dominate the Midwest in the Big Ten. We don't want no balance of power where we're at. We want to get who we want in the state of Michigan and in the Midwest and beat Ohio State for kids, obviously crush Michigan State for kids. And we want to see a balance in the SEC and the Pac-12 and that kind of thing. We want to see. So that's what I'm talking about. I saw that the Tennessee got it. They're doing a good job in recruiting, and they're beating Georgia and Alabama on some kids. So that's all good news. It's just like Denny. It's just like the military, man. We want Japan strong. They're one of our allies, right? Obviously, China's right across the lake there from them, right? So we want power with that kind of deal.
Yeah, I didn't think we were going to get into the balance of the world, history and all that. But
just wanted to throw it at you, but it matters. It matters. Anything that can hurt Georgia and Alabama helps us win a national championship.
Scar, any of those over and unders you've been looking at, and you like them?
I like Purdue, man. I like Purdue. I don't think they're going to – I think Purdue's in for a long year, okay? And they got them at 5.5 wins. I don't think Purdue's going to have 5.5 wins. So I got the under. I like the under. They play Michigan and Ohio State in the other division. So you want to win money, you take under Purdue. They're going to win 4 games at best. They got some tough games, new coach. But Braum was outstanding. So and there's a couple players that transferred. So take some, win some money, take under Purdue. They're not going to win 5.5 games.
All right, you covered that Tennessee wide receiver that you were talking about. Mark says you make a good point. Clemson went wild.
Absolutely right. That's exactly it. When did Michigan State's program blew up? When we started a trip, man. The Buckeyes, and exactly what you want, man. We want to see. Mark is right on it, man. We want to see, and same thing with Clemson and Florida State and Miami. We want those guys, beating each other up with recruiting and maybe Georgia Tech getting kids and North Carolina State. So if we ever got to see one of those guys in a national championship, if they're not all going to Clemson, we don't want them all the 5-stars going to Clemson. We want, spread it out a little bit so they all have 3 or 4 losses.
I love it. We have some film that we want to watch here.
Yeah, Denny, listen, I just was looking at stuff, man. We got to get hyped up. We got to look at some stuff. It's time. We got some couple highlights. Let's just take a look at a few things. Let's see here. Where are we starting off?
Put myself in the upper corner.
Let me go back here, Denny. Get to the first play. Anyway, here's this is what we do. Who's coming? Creative conflict. Let's continue to do this. I mean, we don't know who's coming, who's dropping. This is the mentor Mike McDonald stuff. Hard to defend. Let's take a look. Here we're bringing, 6, 7 guys. They don't know who's coming pre-snap. And, are we bringing 4? Are we bringing 6? This is the Michigan defense that is hard to move the ball on. So I just wanted to point that out. I just wanted to look at a little film, get people looking at some film, getting fired up. So we'll look at a couple minutes, 10 plays here. This is why number 2 is special. This is the power out of pistol. This is the number 1 Jim Harbaugh play. It's a great football play. Denny, they've been running this concept in college. Yost ran this stuff at Michigan Stadium, this concept of the power play. Now, this is against Colorado State, but we want to be able to run this against the Big Ten people. Okay, watch. We're going to block down here and just pull the backside. It's all the same stuff that's what makes Corum special. Look at this thing. Great block by our receiver down here. Well blocked. But that is the number 1 play that Michigan puts in, Denny. When those freshmen come in, that's the first play they're going to put in. And now here's JJ running this RPO with the quarterback keep. But maybe we'll see Orgy this year running this stuff because we want to minimize the hits on JJ. But this is a great play that we run. Everybody in the Big Ten, a lot of people run this stuff. But I'd like to see it with Orgy. I want to minimize the hits on JJ. We got to have JJ ready for, when we go to Nebraska and Michigan State. I think Roman's going to have a hell of a year. We got to continue. I have here, Denny, continue the use of conflict, creativity stuff, man. Now, obviously, we run power. That's a great play for us. And this play looks like power, but it's a reverse with Roman coming back. So I'm hoping. Now, I was at spring and I saw a couple plays that I hadn't seen before. There's going to be some stuff. And that's what good coaches do. You want your creative stuff to look like your best stuff, and then it's just a little subtle tweak to it.
Nice.
But that's Roman there. I think Roman's going to have a hell of a year. But that was a play that is, it's off of our one of our best plays. Here's a 4-man rush. We're getting pressure, but we want to do this against the Big Ten teams. We were able to do it, but I just think, again, we're going to have, I think, better pass rush out of our edge guys than we did last year. And this is what we want to do. We want to get pressure with 4, take pressure off the secondary by having to bring linebackers, and we want to continue to do that with 4 guys. This is why 7 is special, Danny. I want to get, Donovan Edwards. This is the stuff that makes him a pain in the butt if I'm defending Michigan. They come out empty. When we come out empty, the defense has to make a decision. What are we going to do? What's our adjustment? What do we do for number 7? And here's Hawaii. They put some big fat linebacker out there, and JJ sees it. Sharon Moore sees it, and it's like, let's put salt on the wound, man. That guy ain't running with number 7. So this is something that the Big Ten people, this is a pain for them, man. When Michigan comes empty and Michigan works the heck out of this stuff with number 7. So there's where he is a pain because he's got the speed and he's got the hands, and that's all good stuff. So that's what makes him special. Here's a short yardage. We were just so good in short yardage last year, better than we've probably been since Jim's been there. Continue to be good in short yardage. And this is the stuff that makes JJ special, in my opinion. People are covered, and now he steps up. The ability to run and throw an accurate pass. Nice. You heard me talk so many times, Denny, about I want my quarterbacks that can run, and because this is just a pain to defend, man. A pain to defend. So, but we got to keep him healthy and hopefully find ways to get other guys. Now this is Davis Warren last year against Hawaii. But we got to figure out, is it Davis Warren? Is it Tuttle? Is it Orgy? Let's find that second guy. I mean, hey, maybe we got 4. Maybe all 3 of these guys are adequate that we can win with, that we can, that are adequate backups. I don't know. Here's Davis Warren throwing a nice pass, against Hawaii. So that's encouraging stuff. He did that last year, so he's a year older, year better. throwing that to Bredesen. Bredesen will be a year older, year better, year bigger, year stronger. So and that's a position I really think I've talked about it, Denny. Tight end position, we're going to be better at.
Yeah, you've told me that. Yep.
And here's special teams. Okay, just like offense and defense, Denny. I talk about conflict and being creative. We want to do the same thing on special teams. Michigan likes to return. Okay, we like to be a return with our punt return team. But here now we're bringing pressure. So it's easy to make that call against UConn, when you're up 17. But when the enemy sees that you do it, Denny, it makes your return game better when they know that potentially you're going to bring pressure. You follow me?
Yeah.
So you want to be a team that is hard to predict in special teams just as much as offense and defense. So again, it's easy to make that call against UConn when you're up 17. But are we going to do that at Michigan State if we're, if the score's tied? So here, again, this is where we continue to be the best in the Big Ten with Jay Harbs. I think he's the best special team coach. And here we are returning a punt. We showed the block, and we just do a great. I've been to practice. They work the hell out of it. He has the pick of the guys that he wants. The best players. He doesn't care if they're starting linebackers. Here's Orgy. Something out of nothing. So if this kid, if he can show the coaches he can throw, again, Orgy, creative conflict. This is good stuff. We motion out to empty. The play is not blocked very well. He makes that linebacker miss. This is what this kid can do. So this is the stuff that I'd like to see. Like we had the JJ package when he was a freshman. You'd like to see the Orgy package. And here we go on defense. I don't have a lot of defensive plays, but who's going to give us this? This against Maryland, good team, interception. I think that's Turner there, right? That's Turner, right, Denny?
Yeah, yes, it is.
Who's going to give us that? Who's going to step up and do that for us?
Will Johnson.
There you go. So, but they got to do it. They got to make plays. Okay, here's again, we're against Maryland. Like why in Scar's view, why number 2 is the best in the Big Ten. Why? Yeah, I don't have his number in there. Why number 2? I mean, it's just there's not. He bounces it outside. The kid is so good at seeing the empty gap, and we were really good on short yardage. We got to continue to be a great short yardage team. So, a couple more plays, we'll be done. Yeah, we're going to throw the ball to there. There's okay. Got to make plays, and we got to celebrate as a team. Coach Moeller emphasized this. Got to make plays. And, Denny, celebrating is taught. Look at this, interception. Look at the sideline. Look at these guys. Coach Moeller worked on this with us. This stuff is not by accident. We're ready. Okay, we're ready to go. 38 days was the countdown.
Yep, Vince's countdown. Yep.
Let's get some hugs, man. What's this guy doing? Get in the mix. This guy's running over there. Believe me, Danny, you think this stuff is nickel dime stuff? If I'm coaching my defense, I'm coaching this stuff. I'm coaching all this stuff because this stuff matters. What are you doing, man? Get over there and get a hug. Look at his sideline. That's intimidating for the opponent. You got it, Denny?
I love it.
That's all I got for today.
All right, I've got a question coming in for you. First, I want to tell everyone about Reno's Hot Dog Stand and Catering. They are going to be out at the Holly's Farmers Market coming up on Sunday. Stop by and tell them, good afternoon, Michigan football sent you. That's Reno's Hot Dog Stand and Catering. Get a Detroiter. That's what I would suggest to you. Jason, asking you a question. If you believe that Colston Loveland could be the best tight end in our history, Jake Butt was quoted saying this kid could be. I did
Hey,
see
we've
that.
had a lot. We've had a lot of great ones. Tuman in the the '97. I played with Eric Caddis. There's just so many. Jim Mandich. Look, the kid.
Kramer.
Yeah, Crane. Crane. He's a heck of an athlete. He is again. It's how you want to define the tight end position. Is he a grunt guy? See, that's what I want from my tight end. I want grunt tight ends. I want guys that you can line up next to a tackle and run the football to. What's the guy that played with New Orleans that they just spread them out and split them out?
Jimmy Graham.
Yeah, absolutely. Those guys are different. That's a different kind of tight end. So, in my view, I want the Scooney type guys. I want guys we can run behind and we can throw to. So he could be. But I see 4 other dudes in that tight end room that are got good looking potential, man. Okay, so that tight end room is good. The kid's a hell of an athlete, and could be. He could be. But I want to see guys block, man. We can't. You play for Michigan. You play tight end for Michigan. We got to be able to run behind you.
Here's Mark with a question for Scar. You think MSU is over or under 500 versus the West?
I don't know who they have non-league. You're talking about how well they do when they play in the Western side. I don't know who the heck they play.
Well, talking about just the West.
Yeah, I don't know, Denny. I don't know who they play in the non-league. So I got to answer that question. I don't know who the hell. But let me just say this about Michigan State. They have a lot of good player. Look, they lost the receiver, okay, which is a big loss for them, and that's great for Michigan.
Coleman,
okay.
Yeah.
But they got some darn good football players back. That linebacker and some of those kids, they got some good looking players back, man. So they're not, they're not I really think they got good looking running backs. So they're not a team that they're not a bunch of stiffs. Yeah, we're going to have to beat a team that has some players.
I don't think they have a quarterback, and they don't have any receivers. And I look at them getting thumped by Washington. I think overall, Michigan State will be below 500 this year. They will not be bowl eligible.
I hope you're right. That's chaos. That's what we want. We want them looking for a new coach. But I think I'm still high on both of their coordinators.
I know you are.
We'll see, man. I'm just glad that receiver left. That's a nice deal for us.
Here's 2 losses.
And then real quick,
Minnesota.
Real quick, something I read: Howard Schnellenberger, Louisville, Miami are playing. They're going to have the Howard Schnellenberger. They're going to honor a game for him. Howard Schnellenberger recruited me to go to Miami back in 1981, and he told me on my visit they were not a very good team. They were like 5-6. He said, we're going to win a national championship in 3 years. And you know what? They did. The guy built the program, and I met Bill Fralick. Remember Bill Fralick, Denny?
Fralick brothers. Yeah, I'm familiar with the Fralick.
All pro. The biggest dude I ever seen. I couldn't believe this kid was a high school. He was up there on that recruiting trip. I just wanted to point that out. Bill Fralick was the biggest, baddest high school football player I ever seen. But anyway, Schnellenberger, that was good to see. Miami, Louisville are doing that. He was a great coach.
Good stuff, Scar. Anything else that you have on that list?
What else do I talk? I tell you, Denny, I just want to throw this out. I was listening to the Michigan. It was the Michigan Washington State game, the Rose Bowl. They had it on the other day, and I was listening to Keith Jackson. I'm a big guy that I like positive analysts. Sometimes I hear some of these guys nowadays that want to rip on these kids and, miss the tackle, miss the block, and they just get after these kids. And I just love hearing analysts that are, just a little more positive, Denny. That I just think that's important. I just want to throw that out there.
All right. Good stuff. Who didn't like Keith Jackson? I certainly did. All right, Scar, great stuff. We'll be with you next week. We'll see. Maybe this will be a small little speed bump on the Harbaugh stuff. We won't even mention it next week. We'll be like, hey, let's go. Let's get ready for the start of the season.
Hey, if you want more video, let me know if you're interested in breakdown of video. I got more. If I can show more of that, if people are interested.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, we like that feedback. All right, Scar, great job. Can't wait to talk with you again next week.
All right, go Blue.
There he is, Jim Scar.